Mark, a metaverse is defined as a network of 3D virtual worlds focused on social and economic connection.
Yes.
So last year, Spitfire entered the metaverse, the first house builder to enter the metaverse. How did it feel to be the first UK house builder to enter the metaverse?
Pretty good. I think, it was a big statement for our brand and for Spitfire to do that. And I mean, we knew that we were pushing the boundaries. Although, to be fair, we did do a fair bit of research to try and make sure we were the first, because we were almost surprised that we were sort of leading the charge in that sense. It's a nice, innovative sort of flag in the ground for Spitfire as a brand. So yeah, something that we're proud to have achieved.
Excellent. And how did the idea come about? What made you decide we need to be in the metaverse?
Well, there's I suppose there've been a few kind of factors, influences that led to it. So we recently rebranded a couple of years ago and introduced a brand new house type range. So as part of that, we CGI modeled the interiors of 16 different house types. So we'd already got these virtual tour models in place. Couple that with the fact that there's been loads of kind of media talk around the metaverse and the possibilities of it, and it's just really been heightened over the past 18 months or so in the press. And then I suppose the other influence, which is arguably the biggest, is we saw a Gymshark video that was circulating on LinkedIn where they essentially held a meeting in the metaverse. I don't know whether you've seen the one, but it's quite a cool thing. They're all sat at this virtual meeting table. They've got screens up in front of them. They're looking around, and they were kind of experiencing it for the first time and documented that. So you put all of those together, and we kind of went, well, can't we host a meeting space or an environment where you can hold this kind of thing? We've already modeled it. It's there. It exists, and it can showcase our product. So that's kind of the spark that became the idea, really. So
excellent. Yeah. And I think it's really cool that you've modelled all of your house type range in virtual tour as well.
A lot of work, but
yeah, I can imagine. But what an asset to have, particularly for off-plan selling.
Massive part of our kind of sales strategy to get ahead off-plan, and we've talked about it before. But there's the introduction of this house type range and the challenges that come with that, and competition we're up against who have existing examples of the house types and show homes you can go and see. So we're like, look, we're 12 months away from having products on this thing. Let's get something out there so we can start building that confidence. And
how have you found, so we produce lots of virtual tours for clients, and we found a real sort of resistance to headsets. So particularly around, if we're trying to sell really off plan, or really ahead of schedule, the idea of even having a sales suite isn't there. So how have you dealt with headsets and that kind of issue?
Well, I suppose in our specific example, with it being the metaverse, it's slightly different to typical VR. So normally VR, you'd come in to a certain place, area, sales office, whack the headset on and take part in the experience, which would pretty much have to be there and then. The metaverse element of it, which is, like you said before, that kind of social side, what that really offers is someone to be able to do their appointment from anywhere in the world. So we could have our sales consultant sat in the sales office and a prospective buyer in Dubai, Australia, wherever, and they can put their headset on and be in the room, so to speak, with the sales consultant, and they can highlight some of the key features. So we're kind of pitching this at people who've already bought into that technology and got their head around it. But I can absolutely see how there are barriers to it, because even when we've been testing it, putting the headsets on ourselves in the office, we've been a bit conscious and, asking people to try it out. They've been going, oh, really? What, you just want me to stand here with that on? So yeah, there's definitely a bit of a shift in comfort levels, I suppose, for people to be able to wear the headsets.
But I suppose, like you say, it's more of this is a flag in the ground moment of, we're Spitfire, we're forward thinking. And I suppose a little bit of, you've got the tech, but the consumer isn't quite there yet.
Yeah, completely.
And so hopefully in a couple of years we'll all own headsets. Do you see this working in your marketing suites? So where you've got them, or are you not using it at all with headsets?
So I guess the main main focus of us going through this kind of activity, the main goal was really to was like a brand positioning exercise as much as anything. So yes, it is a useful tool for customers, but predominantly we don't necessarily see it as being a sales tool, full stop, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a statement to the sector, to potential buyers, to say, we're Spitfire, we're innovative, we're thinking of this. I know that the industry as a whole has kind of got, or had a label over past years of being kind of stuck in its ways and slow moving and all of that. So again, rebranding, launching into this market where we've got a whole new range of buyers to go after, completely new target audience. This was a really nice way for us to say, look, we think differently. We're fresh, we're innovative, we're agile. So it's kind of worked quite nicely in that sense. I think in terms of general uptake of the tech, kind of adoption of the metaverse full stop, I don't think that it's at the level it needs to be yet, if I'm perfectly honest. I've read some stats recently that 2/3 of people don't actually know what the point of the metaverse is, which is nuts. And that was, to be honest, that was probably us 12 months ago. We went, what is this all about? I keep seeing it. What does it do? And what is the difference from that and VR, and how does it all work together? I think the more that we've explored it and looked into it, the more we've ourselves as a team got our own understanding of it and come to realize actually there is a potential for huge amounts of kind of scope here for using it in a number of ways, but actually the general public don't get that yet, and that's fine. That's the same with anything. That will take time for it to come about. You've got, I know you already asked the headsets question, but you've got that kind of buy-in level as well. You've got to go away and spend 300 quid or whatever on your own headset to even access it. And 300 quid in the grand scheme of things has come down a lot from where it was a few years ago, and is now a more attainable level. It's kind of games console level, but it's still an expense to actually, a barrier to entry really, isn't it? So
yeah, definitely. And I suppose the challenge, you're very much an early adopter of the tech, but it's waiting for everyone else to catch up. And once we get to that point where everyone's got a headset, I mean, what an amazing world for marketers to live in, because when every house builder has the ability to showcase their properties online, it makes the buyer search process that much easier. But I suppose from your point of view, there's so much opportunity in terms of marketing, branding, positioning to be able to differentiate, whereas at the moment you've only got the traditional opportunities that are available to you.
So, I think as with anything, the more that adoption rate increases, the more commonplace it will become and the easier it will be to use. Obviously with that would fall away the idea of we were the first guys to do a show home in the metaverse, but as an actual sales tool, once that adoption rate picks up, it will become more and more commonplace, I suppose.
And what were the hurdles? What hurdles did you come across when you created your show home in the metaverse?
Hurdles. So no one had done it before, obviously, which means that we were going in blind. Like I say, we didn't really know what the metaverse was full stop when we first started exploring it, which means that the supplier we worked with was also in a very similar position. We knew that we had this space modeled. There was the virtual model there in existence. So it was just, in my simple mind, a case of, well, you just upload that, right? You just wander around there, no bother. But when you look into it, there are kind of barriers to overcome again. So there are things like, one of the key issues that we had was the file size. So we tried to upload our model and it was too big of a file size. So we had to go, right, how do we make this work? And we had to make some tough decisions over how we actually get this thing to a usable size. So do you completely cut the quality and have it looking like Minecraft or something where it's like 4 pixels?
Which everyone loves.
So. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Not very useful as a sales tool. It doesn't feel very realistic when you're trying to
selling the dream.
But do we cut the quality? Do we basically just scale back the detail of some of those features? So either cut the quality full stop or scale things back significantly, where the kitchen would be essentially some grey blocks. Or the option that we went with, do we just cut off the top floor? And in the end, that's the one that we did, because we said, actually, for the most part, bedrooms are bedrooms. People can visualize those a lot more than their living space. So let's actually model that ground floor area, make sure that we incorporate some of our key Spitfire details. So our bespoke staircase, our unique kitchen designs, we kind of made sure that all those features were in place. So when we actually do one of those viewings, it makes a lot more sense, because rather than us just pointing out, well, there's the kitchen, there's the lounge, and it could be any old house, we're saying there's the kitchen, but there's our bespoke detailing, and there's the staircase, and look, it's in our own colour, our signature colour that we paint them in, and things like that just add that Spitfire touch, that slant.
So with that file size, was that issue in that with the size of file that you uploaded, if you then wanted to view it, the amount of data it would use?
Basically capped by the Metaverse. It starts getting over my head at that point. But yeah.
Because that seems like a real barrier, doesn't it? I'm assuming they'll relax that as
I guess it's
things
like
get better. But
when you upload images to a website, you can't upload a 2 gig file because it'll take forever to download. This is an online hosted space in the same sort of way. So it's got to be usable, I guess.
I suppose it's not dissimilar to old dial-up, where we were 20 years ago compared to now.
Yeah.
The technology will get there, but it's not
definitely.
quite. We're still at Minecraft level.
That's a key kind of limitation of the tech that we found, but it doesn't stop us. And we, alongside the show home, we also created a meta suite, as we termed it, but essentially like a sales and marketing suite in the Metaverse. That was easier because we just used an existing off-the-shelf space that was available to us, and then we just chucked a load of pictures on the walls and videos and things like that, so you can walk someone around it, sort of metaphorically speaking, and actually show them, oh yeah, here's a series of CGIs of these house types, and here's some photography of work that we've completed before, and here's a video that's a show reel, and da-da-da-da-da. And then from there, you can take them through to that actual show home experience.
Excellent. And what's the response been like?
So we created this, like I say, as a real positioning tool, to be honest. So we've had some really good success in terms of messaging and exposure and that sort of thing. So we got some coverage in the Times, we got Sky News coverage, we got coverage in What House. I demoed it to a journalist from Housebuilder magazine the other day. So it's really helping to put us on the map a bit more in that sense and elevate the awareness of Spitfire. Full stop, I guess. And that, like I say, that innovation, that agility, that kind of fresh mindset. What we haven't really maximized is using it with customers, because we've got it as a tool in our arsenal. We know if someone comes along and they go, I'm interested, but I'm struggling to visualize it, we have that. It's one house type that we've done, but we have that house type modeled. But then we've got to say, okay, have you got a headset? Do you want to try it? They could come into the sales office, they can whack the headset on, no problem, fine. But there's no difference between that and VR at that point. That is just a normal VR experience. And what is special about it, like I say, is the ability to do it remotely. So, like I say, I've demoed it to a couple of journalists and done appointments where I've been at our head office in Solihull in Birmingham, and we've had the journalist down in London wearing the headset, and it's great because you're in the room with them, sort of thing. Like me and you talking now, and I'm pointing out features like, oh, there's the kitchen. I
suppose it's the novelty factor at the moment, isn't it? Where at the moment a lot of people still even haven't put on a headset. It's that novelty of putting it on and interacting and the excitement, which will wear off, I'm sure, in a few years once we're living in them. But
completely, we spend 90% of our day in there. But I put the headset on myself, and obviously we had these CGI virtual tours that we'd modelled, and naturally, as you'll know, working in the world, the sign-off process of that can be hard work and quite painful. So we went through all of that, and I'd seen this tour tens of times, and then I whacked the headset on, and it's a completely different experience. It's like, wow, I am stood up. I can see the height of the worktop. I know it's however many steps from here, from that sofa to that sofa. I can see the size of the windows. It just gives you a complete new perspective on it. So that ability to visualize and understand what the property will ultimately look like from an off-plan stage adds so much more value.
So are you using headsets in your show homes and sales suites at the moment?
Well, we have them available for this experience. We haven't modeled any of our other stuff in a VR fashion at this stage.
So the 16 house types that you've modeled, are you using those in VR?
No, so we send them out on links, we put them on the Rightmove listings, people can click around from the comfort of their own home. But what we are finding is they're not, you can go and click around it and that's fine. You can see the space, but there's no opportunity within that to actually sell. Ultimately, you can't talk them through it and say, oh, this is a lovely layout because of X, Y, and Z. And have you noticed this feature and that feature? There's none of that. There's no real opportunity for it. So someone could sit there looking at a Rightmove listing one evening, have a little click around on their own, and maybe write off that property or us as a developer because there's no opportunity to actually add that further context to what those features are. And we've always focused heavily on our design, sort of that ethos around design and some of the key signature specification items. And if you're looking at something on a screen, it's really hard to actually be able to get those items and those elements across, whether it's, one of my favorite and most geeky comments is about the weight of our internal doors, which we've had countless times. And someone throws open an internal door and goes, oh, that's solid. That's got a bit to it.
You can't replicate that in VR, can you?
No, you can't replicate it at all. So it's only in person or by being able to add some level of context that people see and appreciate those features, those elements. Interesting.
Because I suppose, if that gap can be bridged between VR and the sales aspect, as in if the sales advisor can become connected with the VR experience, then there's opportunity there while we wait for everyone to catch up with the Metaverse. Because at the moment, it's either VR or Metaverse. There's no sort of hybrid, is there?
No, and that is quite tricky. And you can, don't get me wrong, you can use the Metaverse in person. You and I could sit here with the headsets on right now, sat next to each other, but still in the same virtual world, so to speak. But like that kind of defeats the object. The beauty of it is that you can do it from anywhere in the world, and it's just like logging onto a computer when you sat at home on an evening, and there's no that there shouldn't be any further barriers to it, if you see what I mean. It shouldn't be, oh, you've got to come into our office to actually experience it, because it takes away a bit of the magic, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And do you have any opinions on AI in particular, and on how AI could be used to improve the sales and marketing?
Yeah, I think it's huge. It's huge. I mean, I'm no tech expert by any means, but I've had a little play with it myself to see, I did a test and I got it to write some ad copy for us for one of our developments, just purely to see what it would come out with.
How was it?
Sorry?
How was it?
I was amazed by the results. I mean, obviously not as good as what a person could do, because you can't add the same level of context to the brief. But it was bloody impressive from a couple of lines to kind of get it going. And I think we're just getting started with it, really, aren't we? It's just over the past 5 months started to hit kind of the mainstream, should we say? But I think the possibilities for it are absolutely endless. You could have it producing artwork, ad copy. You get, we've already got things at the minute that book ad space for you, so you combine all of these together, and I don't know what I'll be doing in 20 years' time. And
I think the interesting thing is a lot of people, clients, and I'd say agencies are ashamed. There's probably a lot of agencies out there that are using Chatbots, for example, to write brochure copy or whatever, and they're not talking about it. But in my mind, it's just like a dictionary. No one's scared about saying they've used a dictionary to check the spelling of something or the meaning of something. It's a tool that everyone has access to, and actually, if you can use it to improve output or quality or productivity, then why wouldn't you?
Absolutely. It's scary, really, the amount of scope that it covers. And you see, you see the examples where people say, oh, create a picture of X, and suddenly it just from nowhere creates this image. So you think of things like CGIs, you could probably get it making those for you in however long. It's
I can't wait to be able to say, because video is the most expensive video and CGI are the most expensive productions, and I think once we get to that point where we can say, I want to shoot a video with models of these age demographic, whatever, shot in this location, doing this, and within 10 seconds you've got your video shot, maybe scripted or whatever. We can't be far off that, I would have thought. And
I don't know, have you tried some of the stuff? When you type in some of the requests, it comes back and you go, ooh.
No, I haven't had any curveballs yet. Have you seen any video AI tools?
No, not yet.
No. Interesting. Where do you feel there are future opportunities to use digital tools to enhance the sales process?
I think the possibilities out there are huge. I mean, obviously talking about the Metaverse as one option. Touched on AI as well. Those two are heavy hitters in terms of what they can offer and what they can deliver, but it doesn't always have to be that crazy. I mean, we've started modeling CGI using Unreal 5, so you can do your 360 spin of your site plan and see it in different lighting and all of that, and that feels worlds apart from what we were doing 5 years ago when our CGIs were looking a lot more blocky, and you couldn't dream of any of that sort of level of detail or interaction. And I know you'll like this mention, but things like hybrid brochures, you know.
Thank you.
I'll wait for the invoice. But you know, the steps forward there, they might not always be an absolute leap and bound, but actually it's constantly pushing forward that mindset and the way that we approach things. I think kind of touched on it, but as an industry, we've always had a mentality of if it's not broke, don't fix it. But just because it's not broke doesn't mean that it doesn't become stale and dated. And when consumer mindsets are moving forward at such a pace and other industries and sectors are adopting big technological advances and shifts, you've got people buying from the likes of Amazon or big brands like Land Rover and things like that, and their expectation level is suddenly so much higher. So we can't be sat here as house builders going, well, this has worked for us for 20 years, so why do we need to push it forward? Because we absolutely do.
It's refreshing to hear that from a house builder. I think it was interesting. I was having a conversation this morning with a commercial property agent, and you know, she was saying that exactly like you said, that and commercial property in some respects is even more behind resi.
Yeah.
But her ethos is, you know, I want to be forward thinking. I want to leave a legacy and do something different. And I think there are very few individuals that have that level of appetite in property. I feel, you know, everyone else is thinking, what's the bare minimum we can do to get this property sold to make the most money? And of course, you know, that we've all got to make profit at the end of the day. But I feel like we're also missing out on a very real opportunity to stay ahead of the curve. You know, like you guys have done with the Metaverse, to push the boundaries. You know, perhaps slightly earlier, which is a great thing. But to push the boundaries to actually innovate and create something new and different.
I think so, and it's not. I don't think it should always be seen as just a cost, an outlay. Why would we want to do that kind of thing? Because ultimately, if we get these things right, then they'll drive on our customer satisfaction, and it'll massively strengthen our sales and marketing strategy. Because you know, things like virtual tours, as an example, are there and designed for a reason to help us secure those sales off plan at an earlier stage, and ultimately that de-risks a site. So yes, there might be an upfront expense, but it's a lot cheaper than carrying a load of stock plots when you get to that stage and go, we haven't sold them, we're sat here with them. So I think we've got to kind of look at it in a different way, and actually it should be, if used in the right way, de-risking or pushing us forward to support the goals that we're trying to achieve, not just an additional cost.
So what would you say, because there'll be some house builders that are listening to this that will be still just printing brochures. You know, that is what they've always done, and you know, that's what they think is the done thing, and they might maybe upload a PDF somewhere. What would you say to them?
Am I doing your sales pitch?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, nice. I would say it might be working right now, but it won't work forever, and you've got to explore and understand what the options are and how you can deliver that content ultimately in a richer format that's easier to use for customers. So most people will look at stuff on their phones, right? So if I or you were buying a house, I imagine we'd go on Rightmove or go onto the developer's website, have a nosy, see what details on there. A PDF brochure doesn't really deliver that level of interaction, detail, just general user experience that you can do through other routes. So I think there's massive benefit in actually taking some time to really think, how is this going to be used? Why is someone looking at this? So what information are they trying to get from it? And what is the best way that we can present it to them? And just because we've done it as a PDF in the past, because then we can print it, that's great, but doesn't mean that that's the answer for the future. And, you know, not to mention the fact that so many people are moving away from printed documents and brochures and things at scale because of the sustainability creds. There's no point having a load of house type cards sat in a cupboard in the corner when you've only handed out 5 and then you've sold out of that house type, and actually they're wasted now. Bin those.
Excellent. The perfect pitch for hybrid. Thank you very much. I'll steal that one.
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting though is that there are still people that feel that there are still people that want printed material, of course.
Yeah,
but
definitely
it's
not writing that off.
Yeah, but I think the challenge is where for a lot of house builders that's still the priority. It's let's get the brochure done, and it's like, well, actually, as you said, should we be questioning what we're doing and how we're doing it to actually give the information to buyers in the way that they really consume it and want it?
Yeah, I think a brochure as an item, a deliverable, has so much flexibility to it, doesn't it? It needs to serve a purpose, but that could be done in the form of a web page and a house type card, and you could cut out the middleman kind of thing. And actually, you might not need to deliver a 40-page, no doubt lovely designed, but PDF brochure kind of thing. There are other ways to get that message across. Don't get me wrong, I'm not questioning that in certain scenarios it will be the answer, but it shouldn't be as broad brush as that's just the process. That's what we have to do.
Yeah, and I suppose, like you found where we've produced hybrid for you, there's also efficiencies there. Yeah. So, particularly from a brand point of view, once you've created something, it's actually more affordable than the printed design and printed alternative.
It's quicker, it's easier. And the big benefit is you've got the ability to perform those kind of iterative, ongoing updates to actually, rather than showing a CGI of that house because it's now built, swap it for a photo. Let's show that there's some progress, there's something going on. Yeah,
so it shows innovation can be more cost effective still, can't it? So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. And to close, you probably know what the question is going to be.
I know.
So anyone can do your viewing. You're going to buy a new house. Anyone can do it. You're standing at the doors. The person's coming to greet you. Who would you pick to do that viewing for you, and why?
I've been thinking about this for a little while.
This is going to be a good one then.
Teed me up for this a while ago. I'm going to go with Sir Johnny Ive. Do you know who he is?
Apple
guy. Yeah. Designer of the iPhone.
Okay, cool.
Marketing boff. So if you listen to he's not been there for a few years, but if you listen to their videos from a few years back, he's the guy with the lovely British accent.
The only one.
Explains all the detail. Yeah, explains all the detail on all the marketing videos, and the way that he visualizes kind of the aesthetics and ergonomics and design principles of an item, an object, an iPhone most often. But I think that the way that he would convey the features of a property would be amazing. I think that would be really, really interesting.
Excellent. Mark, thank you very much. It's refreshing to hear from a forward-thinking house builder.
Cheers.
And great to kind of see what you're doing in particularly the Metaverse space. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Cheers. Thanks for having me.